Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for checking in to Let's Not Talk About the Husband.
Hi.
Hi. You going to talk about me since I'm sitting here?
Uh,
Let's not talk about me, though,
I'm not
right?
going to talk about
Good.
you.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
let's
good,
not
good.
talk about you, but I got lots of other things to talk about. How about you?
Well, let's see. There's a lot of stuff I've been thinking about, some stuff I want to talk about, but you, after Amelia walked to the Met, like 2 Mondays ago, the Met Ball, she invited you to go on a vacation with her, did she not?
She
Where'd you
did.
go?
We went to Grand Cayman Islands
Wow.
and we stayed at the Palm Heights Hotel, which we
Wow. Very
love.
fancy, the Palm Heights Hotel.
Mother's Day trip. We were all going to go, Delilah and Amelia, and then Delilah had to work.
Lila had
She
to
was in the
work.
studio doing her music.
That's right. She did some amazing songs.
Amazing.
I was not invited to go on this trip, this
No,
Mother's
it
Day
was
trip.
girls. It was Mother's Day.
It was all girls.
Yeah.
That's right. So I stayed home and with the little puppy, with Cheetah,
The cheetah.
and potty trained her while you were off at Palm Heights having a good old time.
You betcha we did.
Yeah.
We had a great time. We missed you and Delilah.
Did
but
you really miss me?
We missed
Are
you, but not
sure?
that much. Not that much.
I
It
don't
was
think there's
really
that much.
okay. It was so fun to do a girls' trip. We hadn't done one since she was 16 in Paris. It was the last time we did myself and her girls'
Is that
trip.
right? So,
Yeah.
and did you get everything out of it you wanted to?
Oh, I had no expectations. We were just going to rest. I mean, she was exhausted. She just really
Yeah, I
needed
bet she was
to
exhausted.
relax. And so it wasn't crowded. Like, at New Year's, it was crowded. We went for New Year's and
Oh.
it was really crowded.
So tell me, when you talked to Amelia about her experience with the Met, was she excited? Did she love it? What happened? I mean, how did she feel about it?
She did. Here's the thing about when you thrust yourself upon the world stage,
As she has done, as you have done, as I have done, the world stage is kind of big.
It's kind of big and it's kind of scary. So I think what happens from what I gather and understand is, we go along in our life and we do our thing and you're never really thrust on the world stage in that way very often. I mean, that is like a global event that a lot of people are watching. There was there's always a very specific dress code and a specific
the theme,
that they are showing
And what
in
was the
museum.
theme this year?
Dandyism.
Dandyism.
Tailoring for you. So dandyism is very, back in Harlem, like in the 20s. They used to dress like
almost like a zoot suit kind of thing.
Yes, it's very zoot suit, very like tuxedo
Like
tailored
big
with
hats
big
and stuff?
top hats. I mean, it was
wow,
really
okay.
fantastic.
Well, I saw a lot of the stuff. We watched a lot of the dresses that they went up the stairway at the Met. I was trying to think of what exactly the theme was at that moment. So it was dandyism, and because Amelia was like wearing this red kind of, it looked like kind of a, I don't know,
lace with a jacket.
but it was kind of a devilish suit of some kind. Did she seem kind of like diabolical in it because
Well,
she was
no,
all red?
just because it was red, but I would not use those words to describe it myself. But that is what I'm going to paint the picture of is that is what fashion does. It creates, it's, much like art. So your take on it is
It's subjective.
subjective
Yeah, who knows?
take.
Yeah.
So that is, imagine that times many millions. So, and then you get the blowback from that. It can be great. And it can also be really like, there's
And what was
good,
her? Did she have good blowback?
She got good and bad. She got all kinds of
But you want
blowback.
good. You don't want it all to be good or all
No.
to be bad. You want a kind of mixture, right?
Yes.
You want some controversy in there. You want a little.
You want to
something
stand
prickly,
out.
stands
You know
out,
what she said? It was pretty cute. She was like, I think that made me really famous.
Well, she's already really famous.
I know, but
because,
when you notice that uptick that you get from something like that, like she noticed it. Like all of a sudden, she made her mark on that red carpet. They had designed that outfit with
Alessandro designed it for Valentino. Yeah.
So she got to do it together with him,
And
custom.
how about the fact that I happened to be in New York the day before the Met, and I happened to be in the Valentino store, and who happened to be there but Alessandro the designer. So I got to meet him, and he said what a huge fan he was of Amelia, And he said, so will I see you there tomorrow? I said, no, I'm not invited to the Met. Actually, my daughter's invited, but I'm not. So, but maybe someday you'll be invited to the Met. You never know.
You never know.
I doubt I'll ever walk those stairs on that particular day, but
you never know. You might. You just might.
Never know. Right?
I know that she got a very nice email from Anna Wintour.
Oh, really?
Yes. Who said that she really looked spectacular and I forget the exact words she used, but that she was, she livened up the red carpet.
We got to get those exact words.
I got to get the exact words. I saw the email. So after she saw that email, she felt real good. She was like, all right, I got the stamp of approval from Anna.
When you get Anna Wintour gives you a stamp
the rest
of approval.
Doesn't matter.
That is a stamp of approval for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys went to Cayman and you had this girls' week, whatever it was.
5 days.
5 days.
We spent a lot of time in the spa. I had many spa treatments. I had an amazing massage. I had a facial. I had reflexology. So I have a full body massage. And then she does this reflexology on my feet. And everyone says they have like all of these things happen. A lot of people cry. A lot of people.
So it goes very deep psychologically, like it's a psychological,
that's what they're saying, that you're going to have
thing.
like this, big release. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, well, nothing's happening. I'm not crying. And then all of a sudden I'm having like all these visions. And I couldn't even tell you like what they were, like flashes of life, maybe. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was just all these flashes. And then at the very end, I ended up with the biggest smile on my face.
Wait a minute. Flashes of life.
Flashes of life. So I could have been dying. I don't know.
So like, of your life, like as though you like flashes of memories and stuff.
I don't know. It just was flashes of life, of things. And
interesting.
I was watching it like a movie. And then I had this big, huge smile on my face. And afterward, the masseuse looked at me and she goes, oh my God, you look so different. You have released, whatever.
When you got home, you had such a bad travel day on the way back from there that you weren't actually as relaxed as I would expect you to have been after all the massages and all the spa treatments and the 5 days on the beach.
I was so relaxed while I was there. But and then that travel day.
Trip back was a nightmare, huh?
Well, yeah, they found like a little on the plane. We get on the plane. We're all loaded, ready to go. It's very hard to fly straight through. So we stopped in Miami on the way back. And all of a sudden the pilot comes on and says, we have this little wire that we have to check. So we need maintenance to come. And it's going to take them an hour to get here because they have to go get the part from like the hangar. So you're like, oh God. Okay.
One of those days on the way back.
Then they cut to, you have to leave the plane now. Like an hour and a half into it.
I hate that when that happens, when you have to leave the plane.
Everybody had to get off.
Didn't that happen when we came back from Cayman? Same thing. On our way to Cayman.
It did. And we had to fly back to LA. Remember that? We flew to Houston and we got in that rainstorm. They canceled the flight. We had to fly
all the way back to LA on the same day.
Yeah. So it kind of erases all of your like relaxation that you've had. I was lovely while I was there. Yeah. And then, 3 hours after waiting for the wire to get fixed. We then board the plane and I got home. I made it home. I didn't have to stay in Miami. I thought they were going to cancel the flight and I would have to stay there.
Well, there's something going on with the air travel.
Well, I was supposed to fly into Newark.
Okay.
I was supposed to go to Newark and we were like, no, she can't go to Newark.
Newark's become a little bit of a joke now, hasn't it? Kind of a thing. Saturday Night Live did a whole thing on Newark.
They certainly did.
Yeah.
So
okay, no, we're not flying to Newark anytime soon.
No.
Okay.
So I got back, and then it was really cute. I was just going to have the weekend and not really do anything, but I got a text message from Alexia Umansky, who is Kyle and Maurizio's second to oldest daughter.
Okay.
And she's getting married, and she was having an engagement party, and she personally invited me to come. And I thought, that is so
When you say personally
sweet.
Invited,
well,
what does that mean?
Kyle didn't invite me. Her daughter did. Her daughter reached out to me herself to invite me. And, I haven't really been in that world, in that group lately.
It's kind of the housewife world, right?
Well, yeah, in that sense, in a way. But just I hadn't seen that group for a while. And I thought, how sweet, I'm going to go. I'm going to do it.
How was it going back into that sort of lion's den?
Well, we used to film at Kyle's house all the time.
That's
so
true.
I walk in and I'm thinking, okay, this is cool. There are no cameras. I could just walk into Kyle's house without filming.
I don't think I've ever been to Kyle's house when there weren't cameras.
You haven't?
I haven't. No,
You
always
have not.
cameras.
Well,
yeah.
except for when we very first went to the white party at Kyle's old house before I signed on to the show.
But they still got us. There were still cameras there, and they got us.
It's true. There's always cameras there. So this was the first time I'd walked into that house, no cameras. So it was like, wow, okay, this is cool. Saw everybody right as I walked in. And the thing that was so great was everybody was there from the Fox Force 5, which I know just pisses everybody off when we call ourselves that. You know, that group of Teddy, me, Kyle, Dorit, and Erica.
Because you were a clique and other people weren't invited.
And people just hated that. Erica was the only one not there. She wasn't able to come. So I got to see Teddy, who, as I told you.
Oh, that's right. Because Teddy has like major stage 4 melanoma, right? I mean, she's like quite ill, right?
Yes. And she was fantastic.
Really?
She is so strong and looked beautiful. You know, she lost all of her hair. Well, when they did the surgery and took out her, 4 brain tumors, they shaved her head. But now, since she's had radiation, she's lost her hair. So she shaves it, but there are chunks where her hair has fallen out. And here's something I didn't know about. She said, I always thought it was the chemotherapy that made you lose your hair.
Yeah,
she said it's actually the radiation.
Oh.
So anyway, she had just had her last radiation treatment, but she's doing immunotherapy, which is very new, I'm told. And she said if all continues, they will keep her on immunotherapy for 2 years, which is a very good sign because I know it wasn't such a great outlook in the beginning. So it sounds like whatever they're doing between the radiation and the immunology, it's working.
So she has melanoma, which has created some brain tumors, but she doesn't have glioblastoma.
No.
Which is what we just found out Michael Bolton has glioblastoma. And one of the things the TAE, this company that has the pig with the flying wings, one of the things we're doing, we have a life sciences division that's pretty new, and we're working with a thing called BNCT, or boron neutron capture therapy, which is a whole new way to treat head and neck cancers, one of them being glioblastoma. And we have clinical trials up in China right now, and there's some up in Japan as well. It's a little early to have somebody from America go over and be part of that trial.
We got to hurry up.
Within a couple of years, we're going to have clinics here in the U.S. They're going to be offering BNCT for glioblastoma, which is a very, very aggressive and almost impossible cancer to treat.
All right, excuses. When was the last time you needed to go to the doctor, but you pushed it off? You made the excuse, I'm too busy, it'll heal on its own, I don't know which doctor to go to. I think we've all been there. Booking a doctor appointment can just feel so daunting. But thanks to ZocDoc, there's no reason to delay. They make it so easy to find and book a doctor who's right for you. With ZocDoc, you've got options. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book appointment. How easy. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors across specialty, from mental health to dental health, primary care to urgent care, and more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, are a good fit for any medical need you may have, and are highly rated by verified patients. Once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings. You can choose a time slot that works for you and click to instantly book a visit. How easy. You guys, I use ZocDoc. You'll love it. It's so easy. You got to use it. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/Rinna to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/Rinna. ZocDoc.com/Rinna.
Okay, so nobody likes washing dishes, right? And everybody likes to cook with non-stick cookware because what a mess, right? So you cook with Caraway, and not only does the food come right out of the pan, but washing it is like a breeze, right? All you got to do is rinse and wipe it off because nothing sticks to Caraway, and it's completely non-toxic. I mean, this is amazing cookware, right? And I use it whenever I'm cooking something that's normally going to stick to the side of the pan. If I use, Pyrex or glass or something, I got to scrub and scrub and scrub to get that stuff off the side after I bake with it. Not with Caraway. This is amazing stuff. There's no better thing that I can recommend for the kitchen than Caraway cookware. All right, now, talking about baking, all right? I do like to bake, but I don't like the mess and the fuss afterwards. Baking with Caraway is unbelievable because you throw it in the oven, out it comes right out of the pan, and then to clean it, all you do is rinse it and wipe it off. It's pretty amazing, this stuff. And just as a reminder, their iconic cookware set comes with a saute pan, fry pan, Dutch oven, and saucepan. Plus, with lids for all of them, a canvas lid holder, and magnetic pan rack for storage, it's the ultimate kitchen setup and will save you money versus buying the items individually. Plus, if you visit carawayhome.com/husband, you can take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/husband or use code HUSBAND at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern.
Yeah, it was just really heartwarming to see Teddy, because I'd gone to see her in the hospital right after surgery. And I said, do you remember that Jana and I came to see you?
Right.
And she said, yeah, I kind of do. But she was having a day that day. She had been in the hospital for 17 days and she wanted out.
Well, absolutely.
She wanted out and she was not having it any other way. So we were like trying to distract her and keep her busy. Because,
well, I'm glad she was out and about, and it sounds like she was. Her attitude was actually really good. When you have a sentence which is kind of a death sentence, when you have that kind of a stage 4 cancer, to have a great attitude and to be able to carry yourself off with that attitude, that's the sign of real character and real strength in someone.
That's what I think. And to see her, like I saw her completely dressed, she had like a long dress on and like a little feather wrap. She looked beautiful. She looks beautiful. And, I sat and talked with her at one point. I was actually sneaking out. Let me be honest. I was ready to go and I was sneaking out the side and there's this little area.
Irish exit.
I always do that. Not always, but I was going to do it. It was a big party. It was like 250 people. They weren't going to miss me. Anyway, I'm going out this sideway and there's this little side of Kyle's house where I have a little PTSD from after I had all that stuff with Kim Richards. Remember that Halloween episode where I dressed like Erica? I dressed like the pretty mess and I have like Erica's hair and I've got blue contacts in. Well, that's when they had brought Kim to that party and they kind of forced us together and I had to go down and sit with her, like to have a private moment. And I'll never forget, we're having like, a heart-to-heart, breaking it down after all the shit we'd been through. And I look just like Erica. I've got blue contacts in and I'm thinking to myself, Kim is having to like talk to me like this and be serious.
when you're completely dressed as Erica Jane. Okay, yeah, I get it.
And so that is where I ended up sitting. So it's Dorit, Teddy, and then another friend of theirs that I didn't know about. But when I walked in, they're talking about dating and dating apps because, everyone's getting a divorce. They're all single right now.
So how do you meet people at this age? You do it online,
and
right?
You have kids. And so Teddy, who is very active and has people that she's seeing, is schooling Dorit. And so I sit down into this. And of course, I know nothing about it. Like I did the Grindr podcast, and that's about all I know. And that's,
About online dating, you mean?
Well, I did
that's a little
it's not
extreme.
Online dating. It's the Grindr's for...
It's a little extreme.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is I only know about Grindr from doing their podcast. So I sit down and these girls are having this conversation about dating apps and whatnot. And I'm like, guys, how do you meet somebody right now? And it was really cute. I don't think Dorit would mind my sharing. She was like, I just want to flirt with somebody. I just want to flirt. And so then we start talking about, Teddy goes, hasn't anybody slipped into your DMs? And she goes, well, I don't think so. And so we pull out her phone.
Slipped into your DMs. Is that a term?
They slide into your DM.
Without you knowing it?
Well, you know it. I don't know why that term is. Why is that term slide into your DMs, Eve?
It's like basically someone is just shooting their shot by like sending you a message. They're just sliding in.
That's how Henry and Delilah met. He slid into her.
So you slide in hopes that someone's going to respond.
Yeah,
you never know if they're going to. Okay, so it's a little like putting a little bait on a hook.
Exactly. It's like putting it out there to see. Okay. So Dorit goes, I don't know. Why? And Teddy goes, well, let's look. So we go to Dorit's Instagram to see her DMs. And she's like, nobody has. And I was like, well, how do we get people to slide into your DMs? Because if you just want to flirt. And I thought, well, maybe if I just mention it on the podcast, she'll get a few people slide in.
Oh, so that's what you're doing right now? You're mentioning it on the podcast? Yes. Everybody. So it's time to DM Dorit Kemsley.
If you want to flirt with Dorit and you want to just slide on in, I think it would be a good time. Easy so now. I'm doing my purpose, my job to help these girls.
You're a pimp.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm basically
You're pimping
a
out.
pimp.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And happy to do so because, you always want your girls to be happy. And like, I felt like, well, just to flirt, why not? Like, how are you going to meet somebody if you don't put that out there?
Turns into petting and
well,
petting turns into, one thing leads to another.
We were like, well, there's a lot of gays, like who's our fan base? Well, gays and angry
That's not going to help her out too much. Neither of those things are going to help her out in that department,
right.
if you ask me. But.
So I'm saying if you guys are interested, DM Dorit and flirt with her. Okay. There you go.
Well, Dorit's cute.
And Teddy too. Why not?
And Teddy too. Teddy, both cute girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm opening that up because it's gays and angry women. So we need to change that.
All right. Okay. Maybe some nice hot young boys will respond.
I think so. These girls are hot. Come on.
And do they want some young boy? Do they want some older man? If they want a sugar daddy? Do they want a young hustler?
I think they're open.
Yeah.
I think they're open to having fun. It's what I gathered. And by the way, I think Erica's looking for somebody too. So I'll throw it out for her too. But I think they were saying Erica gets a lot of DMs. She's got lots coming in because she's let that be known.
This is actually not a bad. We could use this podcast as a matchmaking avenue.
Exactly.
So, but can we create a revenue stream?
We could, I think, yes, because that's what a dating app is. Hello.
So, are we going to be the dating app podcast?
I don't know. All I know is,
do we have any other friends we want to throw out there?
Well, I felt the need to help these women. People are always coming to me saying, "Don't you and Harry know somebody nice?" Somebody asked me recently, and I go, "Well, not really. I don't know anybody who's single who's." Not a douchebag.
We do know all of these single women right now who are in their 50s,
yes,
right?
But what men to go with them that aren't
why
gay?
I say, do they want a sugar daddy? Do they want a 20-year-old?
Well, I think they're open because they were like, just send them on over if you know somebody nice. They want somebody nice.
So this is the official podcast dating app.
For the housewives that are going through divorce.
Over 50-year-old women who are looking for a good time.
They're still under 50.
Under 50,
between 40 and 60.
Middle-aged ladies who are looking for a good time.
Awful. No.
Okay.
Hot women filled with wisdom.
Hot women filled with wisdom and somewhat well known too. So you might be able to get a good table at a crowded restaurant. Okay.
Maybe.
Oh.
Anyway, I hope they get a lot of DMs.
Okay.
And maybe they'll meet
I think you've done your part.
I've done my part.
Okay.
I had a great time with the girls. I really enjoy when we can catch up and, have a moment at a party. It was cute.
Okay.
I enjoyed my conversations with everybody. And then I was ready to go. And then I got in my Uber and I came home.
So, yeah. And then what? Then you came home, you walked in the house, and you said hello, and you got undressed, and you took a bath. We don't need to go into the entire evening.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
We can go. We can move to the next, next thing.
The next subject?
Yeah, we can move to the next
What's the next subject?
What else was I going to talk? Oh, we were going to talk about the Pope.
Oh, the new Pope.
Were we going to talk about the new Pope?
Oh, the new American Pope.
Yes.
That's right.
You said you had things to say about it.
Well, no. Oh, here's what. Okay, so I was reminded when I was watching all the stuff about the conclave and the cardinals and all of that back in the 80s, in the mid-80s, I had an amazing experience with some cardinals.
You did?
Yeah. Okay, so as you know, Dimitri, my son, who, by the way,
it's his birthday.
Today's his birthday.
Today's his birthday, May 19th.
Right. May 19th is his birthday, and that is today. I don't know when this is going to air, but today is May 19th.
Might air soon.
Yeah. So Dimitri, he lived over in Rome the first 10 years of his life. And I would go and visit Christmas time or Easter or whatever. And one time I went over for Christmas, and we had a wonderful Christmas. And then it came time for me to leave and fly back to LA. And I always like to stop off on my way to the airport and pick up what was then the only English-speaking newspaper in Italy, which was the International Herald Tribune. And there was always a kiosk on the way to the airport. I would tell the taxi cab driver to stop, and I would get out of the car and pick up a newspaper, which I did on this particular day. But I remember that as I got the newspaper, there was a whole gaggle of kids that came up, and they were taunting the guy at the bodega who was selling the newspapers. And the guy was telling him to leave, and he was getting very angry with him in Italian, which I didn't speak very well. So I get to the airport, and I happened to be a member of the TWA club. It's the only credit card I have is a little TWA card. And I went to reach for my wallet to get the card that would let me into the club, and no wallet.
Oh, they stole it.
Those kids had been a bunch of little
pickpockets.
They called them gitans. Yeah, they were little kids whose parents got them to pick the pockets of tourists, right? So I'm at the airport, and I have nothing now. All I've got is my passport. I have no ticket. I have no money. I have no way to talk to anybody. And I went to the TWA in the lounge, and they asked for my ID, and I said I don't have any. I was just robbed, and they laughed at me and thought that I was like I had long hair, looked like a hippie, and they kicked me out of the club. And I said, but wait, I'm a member of the club. And they said, yeah, right, buddy. And they wanted my ID, and I said, but the thing is, I was robbed, and I have no money. I have no way to get in touch with anybody. I have no way to use a
no
payphone.
Cell phones at this point.
I was high and dry. And all of a sudden, this guy gets up and walks across the room, and he's got a collar on. Like he's without question a priest. Mm-hmm. And he introduces himself as Cardinal Cohen, which I thought was an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Cardinal Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but anyway, he turns out he was the Pope's travel cardinal, and he was in charge of arranging all of the Pope's travel. And he looked at the person behind the desk, and he said, I hear this young man was robbed. And he says he has a ticket. It was on a certain flight to L.A. And the woman behind the counter said, yeah, he's just lying. And the Cardinal Cohen, said, excuse me, ma'am, but I'm going to make arrangements for this man to fly back to the United States in first class. And he gave me a seat in the first class cabin of a 747 that was completely filled with people who had been shot by a terrorist group called the Brigata Rossa the week before at the Fiumicino airport in Rome. There had been a terrorist attack the week before, and a lot of Americans had been killed, and a lot of them had been shot up, and they had converted the entire upstairs of this 747 into a hospital.
No way.
To fly all of these people back, and a number of them were Catholic. So that's why the Pope's Catholic guy was there to arrange the travel for these people who were all basically half dead. They were on gurneys, they were unconscious, and there were doctors and nurses in the cabin. And I've always wanted to see if I could get in touch with Cardinal Cohen to thank him for saving my bacon.
Wow, that's very lucky.
I know. And then I flew back with all these people who had been shot up by the Brigata Rossa. So when I was thinking about this, when I was watching the conclave with the cardinals, I thought, well, I'm not Catholic, but that was such a wonderful thing that happened, and it almost made me want to convert.
Wow.
Because he was so generous and so nice, this cardinal.
Well, do you know my Catholic church story?
I'm not sure I do.
I don't think you do. When I was 8, I grew up an only child, so it was pretty lonely over at my house. So my parents were friends with the Boilers, and the Boilers had 6 kids, and they were Catholic. And I would go and live at their house.
Catholics have a lot of babies.
6 kids.
That's
and it
right.
was such a fun house. Like, I think there were 3 boys and 3 girls, and it was just fun times all the time, right? I thought it was the greatest thing. So I would go to church with them on Sunday. And by the time I was 8, so I'd probably been going since I was 6. So by the time I'm 8, I'm there. And all of a sudden they have where you go up and you take
Communion.
Communion. Thank you.
It's in the body and the blood of Christ, right?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So I marched myself.
Which is, by the way, I mean, the body and the blood you're eating. If there is a way to look at that that's somewhat cannibalistic, I don't know. Just saying.
And why? I don't know why you do it exactly.
Oh, well, anyway.
So I marched myself up with everybody, with the kids. They were all taking
And
communion.
don't you have to have been like ordained to
Correct.
be Catholic
You
in order
have
to
to
do that? You have
go
to like
through
pass
the
some kind of a test or something?
communion practice or communion.
Catechism or something, right?
You have to do something and take a course or be ordained or whatever. So everyone was horrified. The family was watching me go up and no one knew what to do because really I wasn't supposed to go take communion, but how did I know? I was 8, marched myself up, took the communion. They let me do it. And I just thought I belonged. I loved to go to church. I loved the Catholic
Wait a minute,
Church.
wasn't it a mortal sin to do that?
Probably.
I mean, to take communion when you haven't been like
Probably.
given the license or whatever it is you're supposed to get in order
And
to
I
take.
did it. Of course I did it because it's me.
Yeah.
I went right up, I had no idea I was doing the wrong thing. They thought that they told that story for years to come, that little Lisa Rinna just marched herself up to take communion when she wasn't even allowed to or supposed to, and nobody grabbed me. I just did it.
But wouldn't really, really strict Catholics go, oh my God.
They all did.
That girl just took communion. She's going to hell immediately.
I mean, I've gone, certainly, but I'm
to
still
hell.
here. Oh, yeah. I mean, surely. Surely I've had my
I'll
moments.
see you there, darling. We'll be able to continue this long relationship.
I've
It'll be
surely
warm.
had my
We won't have to
moments.
worry about anything but the AC. But aside from that, we're going to be good. We can go on for eternity. How about that?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can. All my friends are coming. We're all going. So
It'll be a big party down there,
will be
won't
a
it?
good time. Yes. Let's talk skincare. All right. I have spent so much time and so much money searching for the perfect skincare for my face. And, you realize you've been neglecting the skin on your neck. You need to treat your neck just like you treat your face. So Tighten and Lift Neck Cream from Go Pure is such a great product. I'm amazed at how soft and hydrated my skin felt after one use. The skin on your neck is thinner and more delicate. Did you know that? And less oily than facial skin, which means it requires specialized care. Go Pure's proprietary firming complex is designed to visibly firm and smooth the skin on your neck and chest in as little as 4 to 8 weeks. In a consumer study, 100% of users said their skin looked more supple, and 97% noticed a firmer appearance. It's dermatologist recommended, cruelty-free, paraben-free, and sulfate-free. And there's been 1 million jars sold, so it's not a beauty secret any longer. Tighten, lift, and restore elasticity in your neck because your skincare routine shouldn't stop at your jawline. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code HUSBAND at checkout. Just head to gopurebeauty.com, use code HUSBAND, and you're all set. And after you buy, do us a favor. When they ask you where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was from our show.
This episode of Let's Not Talk About the Husband is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. From vacation rentals to hotels across the U.S., Booking.com has the ideal summer stay for absolutely anyone, even those who might seem impossible to please. Whether you're booking for yourself, your partner, your picky teens, or your sleep-light, rise-early mom, you can find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com. Okay, so we're going on a trip. So imagine that, like us, you're traveling somewhere and you got 2 kids, a dog, and 2 parents, and you got to find just the perfect accommodation, and both of your kids are foodies. So what do? You find a house with a great kitchen. You find a house with at least 3 bedrooms, because we got 2 kids. They both want their own room. They don't want to sleep together. Both need their separate rooms. And we also got to find a place that takes dogs. I mean, our dog is great. She'd never mess anything up, but you got to find a place that takes dogs. We have a little puppy now. So 2 parents, 2 kids, and a dog, and a big kitchen. That's what we always go for at booking.com. Yeah, that's booking.yeah. So if our family can find their perfect stay on booking.com, anyone can. There's no better thing that I can recommend. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Find exactly what you're booking for. Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Book today on the site or in the app.
So, yeah, I did that. And they told that story for years that I went up and took communion. So I have always felt a great fondness to the Catholic Church, even though I'm not technically Catholic, though I considered myself to be.
Well, and when this Cardinal Cohen came up and saved my bacon, I almost thought, well, wow, man, these Catholic people, they're pretty cool. They just gave me a free ticket in first class, because I was flying coach. My ticket was in coach, and I had a first class ticket. But I did have to share airspace with dying humans. But
you got to fly first class.
There you go.
I loved going to church. It was the one place, because my parents didn't go to church, so I'd go with, I would go to the Episcopal Church, I would go to the Presbyterian Church, I'd go to the Catholic Church. It really didn't matter. I loved it. I loved Sunday school. I just loved the whole thing of it.
Did I ever tell you that I became a complete Jesus freak?
No.
When I was a senior in high school?
No.
I did not tell you this?
No.
Oh, okay. So I
don't think so.
So is spring break my junior year, because it was my whole senior year after that I was Jesus freak.
You became a Jesus freak?
There was a big rock concert that was supposed to happen in Palm Springs. And so my friend Charlie and I drove to Palm Springs for the rock concert, but the city of Palm Springs thought that the rock concert was going to really bring nothing but mayhem to their city, so they canceled it at the last minute. But all of these people had come to Palm Springs to go to this rock concert. So all these kids were there and nowhere to go, except they allowed one musical group to play. And it was a Christian musical group that they allowed to play in a vacant lot.
Jeez.
And
talk about controlling.
I know. And so it was the only music in town was this Christian rock and roll group.
And now they have Coachella there. Hello.
So we went to and there was this really beautiful girl. Her name was Tracy, and she had really well-developed mammary glands, and she was quite beautiful, and she had a big leather cross around her neck, and I thought, oh, this girl is so pretty and all that, and she said, well, come on over, let me read some Bible to you, and yeah.
So to fuck her, you
I
became a Jesus freak.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that.
Well,
but
I know you well enough now.
I found her really attractive, and there was nothing else going on, so I listened to her proselytize for about an hour about becoming a Christian, and she got to me. Wow. I mean, it got to me, and she gave me a copy of a Bible that was called the New Testament. It was the New Testament, but it was been written for kids. It was somehow not in the same.
So easy to understand.
Yeah, it was written for kids who are not educated in the Bible. Put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I took this book home and I read it, and I got hooked. I got totally hooked.
I can see how you would.
And then I became involved with a group in L.A. who had a church downtown. And they were all about speaking in tongues and having
Baptist.
Yeah, well, even more.
Like save you.
These people were way into
Hallelujah, save you.
And they said at the end of my senior year in high school, they said I'd been studying Christianity long enough that I was now eligible for the laying on of hands.
Oh yeah, where you heal people, or they heal you.
They said we're going to have a ceremony, and we're going to have the Holy Spirit enter you on a certain day, and you're going to come downtown to go to the church. You're going to be wearing all white, no shoes, no belt, and we're going to baptize you in the Holy Spirit.
Fantastic.
And so I went. Cool. And I found a white outfit, no shoes, no belt, arrived. All these people wearing white, no shoes, no belt. They're all sitting around, big bucket of water that I had to step into. And then they all came over and laid their hands on me, and they said, now you are about to meet God.
Wow. How did you meet him?
So, okay. So I'm standing there in this bucket of water in my white clothes with no shoes and no belt. And all of a sudden, I feel these hands all over me. And these people all start chanting in tongues.
Shit.
Like this unintelligible vocalization that I couldn't get.
Yeah, I've seen it on TV
And
before.
I thought, oh, any second I'm going to meet God now. And any second I'm going to have the gift of tongues. And I'm going to be able to talk to these people in whatever language they're speaking. And I'm sitting there and the hands are on me and the room is beginning to spin around. And all of a sudden, I had an amazing vision. When what opened up in front of me was just it was as though the universe was completely filled with planets whizzing around and energy whizzing, and it was absolutely chaotic. But at the very same time, it was absolutely perfect, and everything was as it should be, even though everything was absolutely crazy and just insane. But absolutely perfect at the same time. But nowhere in my vision was there a guy with a white beard sitting on a throne with white robes on. But it was an absolutely amazing and perfect vision. And I think I did meet
whatever that entity is.
But I got up.
Wow.
I looked around the room at these people who were all chanting in tongues, wearing white clothes, no shoes, no belt. And I walked out of there, never went into a church again, never read the Bible again.
Wow.
I think I saw if the closest thing to what my expression of God might be in that moment, an absolutely beautiful and benign vision, but no old guy with a beard, and no tongues.
Oh, but you had a feeling that you never needed to go back.
It was quite a blissful moment.
Love that.
Yeah.
But didn't you say you had that same blissful moment where you were almost killed in the car accident? That when the truck hit you and you died for a minute, it was really blissful.
Well, yes, something like that.
Okay, so you've had a couple of them.
Well, that's true. So that was when I was 19 and I was driving. I had been accepted at Yale, but I wanted to go back at spring break and see the college and see if I really wanted to go. My girlfriend was going to go to Bennington in Vermont, and so we were going to go and look at these two colleges. And so we got to the East Coast, and we got in a little Datsun 1600 or something, a tiny little car, and we were going to drive around, and we went to New Haven and saw Yale. We went up to Bennington and saw Bennington, and then we were going to go and visit my girlfriend's ancestral home in Front Royal, Virginia. So we're driving. We're finally in Virginia. We're driving, and my girlfriend is driving. I'm in the passenger seat. I'm asleep in the passenger seat. She's driving this little tiny Datsun, and all of a sudden, I hear her say in my slumber, "I don't think we're going to make this." I opened my eyes, looked up, and saw that we were trying to pass two semi-trucks that were on our right. We were going around a curve, going uphill, and on our left was a bridge abutment with a 200 or 300-foot drop into a ravine, and we were in the oncoming lane, passing these two trucks. When I opened my eyes, I saw a country squire station wagon coming at us at 65 miles an hour. We were going roughly 65 miles an hour. And there were 2 or 3 seconds before impact when I had the most blissful sensation of calm and peace.
I remember. You just told me this the other day. You reminded me of it.
I've been trying to think of if there's a way to approximate that.
In life, in every day?
I mean, yeah, maybe through some kind of spiritual work or meditation or something like that, because the only other time I've felt anything quite like it was as you put those two things together, that moment when I was standing there in that tub of water with no shoes on, wearing white clothes and no belt. And all of a sudden, this vision opened up in front of me. So those two mystical experiences have, they kind of inform, what it is that we as humans are trying to achieve in terms of calm, bliss, peace, whatever you might want to call it, which is probably in the end just love.
Look at you go. You're like a spiritual guru today.
Well, you asked me this question. I had to answer
it's
it.
Good.
So,
it's real good. It's what everybody's, I think, searching for.
Yeah.
Well, are those two feelings right there? Like, isn't that what we all would like to have?
I think the human experience begs for us to go and find whatever peace or bliss or sense of contentment or fulfillment is out there. I mean, and I think that, one of the paradoxes of being human is that we always kind of seem to be trying to grab for the brass ring, not knowing even what it is. So I don't know, maybe there's something to that.
I don't know. I also I just flashed on, I watched the Judd's Lifetime documentary, the country duo of the mother-daughter,
right.
Naomi and Winona Judd.
Right.
Wow, is that a ride to take?
So there's a documentary on them?
4-episode documentary on Lifetime.
Oh.
So I went down that road this weekend, and holy cow, was that is worth watching.
What's the deal? Why?
Well, it's just a fascinating story how they created this life for themselves out of nothing and out of so much trauma, so much generational trauma and
abuse?
Shame and things that were never dealt with and never talked about. I mean, what these women all went through, Ashley herself also, so there were 3 of them because Ashley was the youngest daughter anyway. In the end, she had also come out against Harvey Weinstein. She was one of the first actresses to,
So that's sexual abuse right there.
Put her name there, but it goes way back. And I mean, it was fascinating. It's a very, very tragic story because in the end, Naomi kills herself. She
really
kills herself. And Ashley finds her and goes and just...
When did this happen?
This like a couple years ago, like 3 years ago, 2022. It's a really...
So had there been abuse when they were kids too?
Well, I can't give too much of away, but if you're going to watch it, but they all had their own trauma.
Isn't there some weird statistic like 1 out of 3
1 out of 3 women.
1 out of 3 women are abused, right?
Sexually abused.
What?
Yeah.
1 out of 3?
Yes. I believe that is the statistic.
Oh, but nothing ever happened to you.
No,
right?
and it's because my mom, I really look at it because my mom was attacked and because whatever fear of God, fear of everybody, whatever she put, whatever I got, whatever I came out with, nobody dared ever. So I truly believe that I am one of the very rare women out there that has not been sexually assaulted by a family member, by anybody. I'm very fucking lucky. I know that. I absolutely know that because most have had these experiences. So what was interesting to watch in this documentary is being a family, they all had their own experiences that they didn't talk about, so they didn't know about each other. And they
They finally realized that they had all had these experiences and they didn't know that they all had them?
No, because there's so much shame around it. Especially starting with Naomi, when she was growing up, you never talked about it. And she was 3.5 when the uncle came in. It's a horrific story. So she completely shoved it down in her. I mean, you're 3.5 years old. How do you even remember that? But what I found so interesting was they had all had a sexual traumatic experience and they didn't know that each of them had until later on. It's a fascinating story about trauma and...
I'm just blown away by that statistic that that we have that many sexual abuse cases in America. It's just beyond me. 1 out of 3 women.
Yeah. And there's so much shame involved that most women don't tell, or they don't tell for years. They keep it to themselves. Maybe they blacked it out and they don't even recall it. And, in the storytelling, Naomi didn't recall that this had happened to her in her life until she was in her 50s.
Really?
She didn't remember it until they were in some kind of a therapy session that Winona had gone to and said, you know what, I got to go to rehab.
And she realized, and did she actually see and remember the entire experience?
Like that quickly.
Really?
Once she was talking in a way with a therapist that I think she really trusted and really liked. And he asked her, he said, what is your earliest memory? That was the question he asked her. And that is what popped up.
Hmm. And no one had ever asked her that question before. She just hadn't thought about it, I guess, before.
She had shoved it down. I think the way she described it is she had shoved it down so many layers into her subconscious that it wasn't. There were so many things that she had hidden and covered up and lied about while she was going through more. She got pregnant really young.
It's amazing that we've heard stories about people who repress experiences like that, and they go through their whole life and they completely forget about some horribly traumatic thing that happened to them when they were little, and somehow maybe they'll remember it, maybe they don't. Yeah. But I mean, could something have happened to you or me that we don't remember?
I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, if it did, I've not recalled it at this point. But she was starting to have really, really bad panic attacks and really dark depression, and that's what came out.
I was once in therapy years ago, and a therapist asked me if I had ever been left by my parents, like abandoned by my parents.
Yeah.
And I was when I was a kid. I'll never forget. At Christmas time, I remember being in the office at Bullock's, which was a
department store
in Pasadena, where I grew up. And I remember sitting in the office. I couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old, and they had fake presents in the office.
Right.
And I remember that I tried to open one of the presents. There was nothing in it. It was just a fake present. And somehow my mother must have either, I don't know, forgotten that I was with her, or maybe she was arrested for shoplifting. I don't remember what happened. But
were they taking the speed shots at this point?
Yeah, they were. I think at that point. Well, so I for some reason, and so I remember this therapist once asked me about that, and I don't know if she didn't say whether it was my earliest memory, but I remember mentioning something about that, and she said, "Oh, I'll bet you were abused by Santa Claus."
No, she planted that.
She planted it in my head that somehow, as I was sitting on Santa's lap, that maybe something had happened, and she made this whole story up. This therapist about how I had repressed this abuse as a child.
Well, I think sometimes that does happen.
It probably does, but I don't think it happened in my case. Maybe, but something happened. I don't remember what happened, and now I can't ask my parents because they're gone.
They came back and got you, probably.
I guess so, yeah. I just remember being horribly bored in this office for a very long time at Christmas time, and the presents were all fake. But I don't think I was abused.
All right. Well, we have opened the door to many of you out there to think about your lives and what's happened to them. We're not experts, but we've lived life.
No, we have lived a little bit of life.
This was very interesting. I learned a lot about you. You learn a lot about me in these moments.
And how great it is that we get to come in here and spend an hour talking about stuff that we never would talk about at home.
I know. That's what's so cool about this.
Yeah.
Is we sit and talk about things that I think are interesting that we just wouldn't do it at home where there's no time. There's too many distractions in the day.
Yeah.
At home.
And we've been together for so long that we have a shorthand now that we can make the day go by and get through the day without having to say much. After 30 some odd years, you develop a shorthand.
Which is nice, but I think this is really interesting and fun to delve into some conversation that you wouldn't necessarily have at a party, you wouldn't necessarily have at a dinner because you're talking to many different people. I don't know. I can stay very focused in here where I can't stay as focused out in my life.
Well, then we should spend more time in here and be focused.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time.
Great. Yeah. Well, I guess. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to Let's Not Talk About the Husband.